dreams collide. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs, hearts ablaze through the cheers and cloudy days. From the lane to glory's flight. Spotlight on Spurs, shine so bright. Echoes rise when we take the field. This is passion, nothing concealed. Through the tackles, joy ignites. Spotlight on Spurs, burning lights. Feel the tempo, sweet and wild. London's warriors never mild. Every challenge we endure. Spotlight on Spurs, loud and pure.
What's up, guys? Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs. Just a little quick video or live stream. We will be joining in about half an hour. We will be heading over to Tottenham Till I Die, who go live at 10 o'clock. But I just thought I'd do a little live stream just on my own, just kind of having a little bit of a chat about all things Tottenham Hotspur. There seems to be quite a lot kind of going on in the fan base at this moment in time, specifically around the lack of transfer activity that's kind of been going on. And I was having a little look around the size of the squad and etc. And maybe that's the reason behind the whole delay on anything else being announced. Everyone knows the whole Morgan Gibbs-White situation that's currently going on, and it seems to have come to a halt. No one else is being mentioned. No one else is really being linked strongly. There's been loads of bits and pieces that are out in the media, but nothing's really come out to say Spurs are really interested in XYZ. It's almost tentative. We're monitoring, we're looking, we're checking, as it always is. So I came across this on X recently. Let's just get it up on here. Oh no, let's switch it the other way around and go that way. So I came across this, and I think it was quite interesting that there are a couple of notable absentees on this. But in total on this spreadsheet, you've got 31 players. It doesn't include players like Solomon. Austin's not on there. Devine, Gill, Donnelly, Lancashire, and Abbott. So I know Abbott's probably going to go out on loan, and some of them will, but that's a squad of 38 players that we currently have in this squad. And we're crying out for Morgan Gibbs-White. So that takes that total to 39. We've got nearly 40 players, and granted, we're not as good in terms of squad depth, but we are absolutely screaming at Chelsea having such a massive squad, and we've got nearly 40 bods in this squad as well. So I just wanted to kind of like run through it, and we kind of discussed it on yesterday's stream a little bit about just how many players need to actually leave before we can start getting some notable players through the door. Because if they don't leave, we're going to have a hell of a lot of players that will maybe situated like what Reguilon was last season, where he's on 50, 60, 70 grand a week, whatever it is, and he's simply not going to play any games. Now, granted, a lot of these are sort of on the younger scale. However, these players need to go out to develop. They need to be playing minutes to develop. There's no point them sitting in an under-21s sort of football. It's just absolutely pointless. So I thought it'd be interesting to come on and kind of just see what everybody's actual thoughts are. And when we break it down, is there actually multitude of reasons to the Morgan Gibbs-White situation and why it hasn't been pushed along so quickly? In a way, does it make sense for all parties to kind of just let this simmer a little bit? So what I mean by that is, let's start with Nottingham Forest, for instance. They have to go out and get somebody else in. They don't want to lose two key men in the space of a couple of days, which it would have been with Elanga and Morgan Gibbs-White. Are they in a situation where they kind of, they need to save a bit of face with the fans? They need to line up potential replacements. You're also talking about if you're a club and you know that Nottingham Forest have just sold Elanga and Morgan Gibbs-White. They're looking at 120 odd million, 110 million, say. You know that they've got that money sitting there waiting. So is it just worth them keeping hold of him for that little while longer, making the signings, and then agreeing to Morgan Gibbs-White? Morgan Gibbs-White, quite clearly, with everything that was going on and him being at the hospital and his partner in the situation they're going through, maybe he just needed a bit of time just to simmer down. He was getting a lot of flack from Forest fans, which I think is completely unjust, but he was getting loads of flack that side. Now he's getting loads of flack from Spurs fans who are saying that he should be handed in a transfer request, which I think is crazy. Again, we discussed this. Big up Brian in the chat. I will come to the chat in just a second. I'm just on a bit of a roll here, so I'm going to keep going with it. But he's in a situation where his partner's going through a high-risk pregnancy. Maybe he just needs a little bit of time. He's already accepted a contract at Spurs, so therefore he's already showed his intention that he's willing to come. But because of the flack, because of everything that's going on, maybe just a week or so, couple of weeks, just to simmer it down a little bit. Forest get in their replacements. They'll be less angry. Spurs fans obviously get their man, so they're going to be less angry. And then for Spurs, is it also not the end of the world if we can manage to get some players out of the door because of this hugely bloated squad that we actually have? So I'm interested to know what you all think. If Morgan Gibbs-White comes in right now, we have a squad of 39. So that means that nearly 15 players need to get out of the door. Maybe 14 players in total that need to get out of the door. And as I said, there are some notable exclusions, on this in terms of, as I say again, Austin will definitely be part of the squad, so he's definitely going to be involved. Solomon is obviously could potentially be for sale. Devine, there's been links to him. Gill is probably going to leave. Donnelly and Lancashire, will both of them go out. You've also got Scarlett there as well, and then Abbott, who I think is probably quite likely to go out. So we'll come to the chat, but let's see. We'll kind of work through it together. Have a little bit more of a chat about a little bit about Morgan Gibbs-White. We're not going to go too much into it. Obviously, Son has been a big question. Again, we kind of discussed it yesterday, but eager to see whether there's any other opinions that's in the chat. Big up, Cookie in the chat. Big up. Thank you for joining. Chris, big up, mate. Just to subscribe. Will the Morgan Gibbs-White deal get done? Big up, Chris. Appreciate the subscription, mate. Much appreciated. We have hit an unbelievable amount that I just can't believe the support we've received. I posted up a Twitter story today that it was something like let's just get the exact date, because this is just absolutely ridiculous. So it was 140 days ago today I had 1 subscriber on YouTube, and today we hit 1,160. Just absolutely crazy support. Thank you to everyone that's been involved, whether you've been in the chat, whether you've subbed, whether you've commented, whether you've been part of the panels, whether you brought me on your show, however it is. Just a massive thank you. Will the Morgan Gibbs-White deal get done? I think it will. I do think it gets done. I think there will be some sort of date on it, where we'd say, look, we're not waiting any longer than XYZ. But again, we discussed it yesterday, and I'm sick and tired of Spurs going out there and getting the 5th, 6th, 7th choice. If Morgan Gibbs-White is the one where Frank or Spurs have said this is the guy, then let's let him be the guy and we get it over the line. I'm sure if we had no indication it was getting done, then we'd have moved on. We'd have already pulled out, and it doesn't seem to be the case. So I do have faith that it'll get done. It's typical Spurs that we seem to have done everything right in terms of met the release clause, which we never do. It's a good player. It's a player that improves us. It could argue also weakens a competitor, and yet we've still managed along the way to kind of mess it all up. I'm interested to hear what everybody thinks, because I think this kind of splits the fan base. I think some of them are just saying, like, I don't even care anymore. Just get him gone and get it done, or don't move on. Whatever you want to call it. Everyone saying hello to each other in the chat, which is brilliant. Big up Brian. Brian was on the show yesterday, had a great show again. Kind of discussing again Morgan Gibbs-White, that sort of thing. I didn't realise the sheer numbers we still had in this squad. So when we look at tomorrow, why there's going to be 2 matches, I think this is exactly why we've got 40 members of a squad, or 38 members of a squad at this moment, and that's not including some of the other youngsters that are in and around as well. So Martin, Ian, and Luke, as humble at Spurs, not signings. That's it, mate. That's it, mate. We're not hitting them signings at this moment in time. But is there reasonings behind it? Am I just being too nice? Am I being too silly? But I think that might be a part of it. It's coming down to. I've been doing. I don't know whether any of you guys have seen it, but I've started to run. I think there's been three episodes. Sorry, there's been two episodes so far. There's another one coming up, and it's called My Spurs Preview. We're getting some different people on the channel to come on, and kind of I asked them 10 questions, and it's all around Spurs, and everybody has the same sort of expectations in terms of signings of who we need to get. As you can see here in the Reds, we lack some depth in the fullback areas, Doggy specifically. I actually think with this, I think Davies is probably going to play more left back now, unfortunately. I think what seemed to happen under Frank was that we had one of the fullbacks going further forward with the other one tucking in. So I can imagine if Davies plays left back, he will tuck in as almost like a free centre back with Porro or Spence going further forward, as opposed to it was the other way round when we played Reading. But it's quite clear where the kind of issues lie and where we need to start kind of strengthen. Everybody has been saying the same sorts of things in terms of who we need. This left centre back, there's numbers, but is there quality? The left back we obviously need. Is there a player that kind of covers both here? That's a possibility. Defensive midfield or a deeper midfielder who can operate better defensively is what everybody requires. And then obviously the left hand side is another been another talking point, if you like. There's been quite a few players. Richarlison can obviously play out here. As I said, Donnelly's not included on here, who could be through the middle. You've also got, who else did I have on my list? Gill can obviously play there, and Solomon. So you could end up actually having 6 or 7 names just on this left hand side. But there's numbers. Is there quality? Again, is one of the questions that everyone quite rightly asked. So there's almost 3 positions I think that really need to be strengthened: the left centre back, left back area, the defensive midfield area, and then a forward of some sort. Now you could end up going and getting a forward that plays off the left but can play central, one that plays central that can play off the left, or whatever that may be, but an attacking option. They seem to be the same 3 that are constantly coming up whenever I have conversations with people, and I completely agree with all of them. Polinia obviously kind of resolves an issue there. However, for me, slightly different in terms of the profile that I think Frank would want. I think Frank is probably wanting a little bit more of a ball playing as opposed to a destroyer. I think under Ange's system, Polina would have been the absolute #1 target because you're isolated. You needed that destroyer in there that was virtually on their own. However, under a Frank system, I don't think the destroyer is as much of a requirement. However, I still think he would be a good signing. I think if he came in, I don't think that's going to be a player that's going to be negative to the squad. I think he'll come in and he will certainly do a job. Age, price, the deal. Is it Spurs? I'm not so sure. Big up Audio. Thank you for coming in. Much appreciated. It is the first live stream on my own, which is a bit of a unusual one. Normally I can bounce questions off people. However, it's I'm doing it all on my own today, so a bit of a different one. Razzle dazzle, big up. Marius, not sure on Morgan Gibbs White. I think that's part of being a Spurs fan, to be honest with you. We're just so used to this not getting over the line, basically. We're so used to Spurs just messing it up one way or another, or finding a way, even when it's virtually impossible, of messing it up. But I'm hopeful. I just feel like we would have pulled out. I feel like we'd have pulled out if there wasn't a serious expectation that we're going to get this over the line. But I completely understand. Hope Langer has balled up on his wall. Well, this is the thing. Langer, this is the way Langer works. It's very different to Paratici. Paratici has so many different players that he's looking at. He's looking at multiple players in the same position, and it's almost like he gets them all to a decent advanced stage, kind of knows that they're one that we can kind of go with, and then goes and says, right, it's this one, no, right, it's this one. So there's always links out there. There's always players that you kind of know that Spurs are massively interested in, and bids have taken place, etc. Whereas Langer just works differently. You may look at, I know the Morgan Gibbs White deal hasn't gone through, so that keeps being labelled, but the Kudos deal just kind of come out of the blue, really. There was a bit of speculation, but it went from the bid accepted to being done very quickly. Morgan Gibbs White, it was an afternoon. I'm pretty sure it was around about 2 o'clock. It was reported that Spurs were interested in activating, and then at 8 it was like a here we go. So within 6 hours the whole thing's changed around. And if we do that again, let's say that, I know the Morgan Gibbs White deal didn't get through, but if Morgan Gibbs White and another within 48 hours get done, it completely changes everyone's perception on the window, I think. And I think if we'd have got him over the line, we'd have been sitting here being a little bit more feeling a bit happier about the window, which it is a bit of a pain. But as I say, we're used to it with Spurs. If there's a way to mess it up, Spurs are going to do it, and if there's a way to make things difficult, then Spurs are guaranteed to make it difficult. Yeah, Lancashire as well. So as I said, we've got, in terms of these numbers, for anyone that's just kind of joined in, we've got 31 players that are in this. Yeah, that does not include Solomon, Austin, Devine, Gill, Donnelly, Lancashire, and Abbott. So then that numbers take it to 38. I initially didn't even realise Gibbs White was already included in this, but so that means our current squad totals at this moment with Gibbs White, if we was to get him over the line, would be 38. So again, you're looking at getting rid of 13 players, and that's just the 25. That doesn't include like your homegrowns, your club trains, etc. That's just to be there on numbers. So I think that this is part of the reason we're not seeing it. I think a lot is going to depend on who kind of goes out the door. For me, I think Morgan Gibbs White will come through, and then this is what we're then dealing with, to get players out, to then freshen it all up, to bring in new players. The whole we need to sell to buy, I don't think that was from a financial point of view. Obviously we want to create some income, some money from outgoings, but I think mainly it's just squad numbers. As I said, you've got 38 players here. There are going to be a number that will leave on loan. However, you can't just continually keep buying players on the hope that players are going to be able to leave, and they're just simply not. Random question was spent 610 million over the last 5 years. Where has that value gone, and what are they worth now? See, this is one of the big problems with Spurs, is that the amount of money we've spent is actually not low at all. It's not like we're only spending it a couple of million here and there. We're spending big money. It's just we're not spending it in the right areas. Brian Hill is a perfect example. I mean, anybody that's watched Brian Hill play over the last however long we've had him can tell immediately he's not a Premier League player. He's simply not a Premier League player. So who's looking at him? Who's going, this guy is someone we should be bringing in? We're monitoring FC. That's all we seem to do. That is a player that you monitor, and you kind of go, technically he's got it. Technically he's a good player, but physically he's not ready. And maybe in a year or two, if he bulks up, maybe we can look at him. But whoever sat there and had control of that, and from what people are led to believe, it was like 25 million plus Lamella. So again, we're not talking about cheap players here. Ndombele, I was a massive fan of Ndombele, but quite clearly, if anyone would have done a bit of research, mentally he wasn't there to be a Premier League player. He's not a player that's going to compete at his maximum year on year. Lo Celso, continually injured. Sessegnon, 30 million, continually injured, goes on a free. So you are right, and this is one of the big problems that we've had, is that, well, I spoke about Chelsea earlier in terms of the big squads. The problem with Chelsea is they go and they sign a Madueke, and then a year later, 2 years later, they're selling him 50 million. Do you know what I mean? We're not doing that. Lo Celso practically went for nothing. The weirdest sort of clause on that Cardozo deal you've ever seen, where we get a percentage of his outgoing of whatever it was, but we got nothing essentially. So Lo Celso, Ndombele, Richie, we're now scraping. Looks like he might be out the door. What are we going to get for him? Nowhere near what we paid. This is just a continual theme. Now, I'm hoping that the new way that we're doing it is going to end up being slightly different, but we're going to have to see. It's not necessarily the money spent for me. The wages are a big problem. I mean, when you're going and spending your 65 million on your number one target striker in Solanke, and he's on 100 grand, say. I mean, you're looking at the 65 million pound mark now. Your Gyökeres's, I know it's a few years later, etc. But these are the types they're coming in there wanting 200, 250s, and we don't seem to be at that. I think Phillips has gone to Stoke. Oh yeah, he has. Of course, he has. He's gone out on loan. This one was. When did this come up? Actually, it was a little while ago. But it was only when I started looking at it, and then I realised there were some names that actually weren't on this list, and I was like, "Oh, this squad is ridiculous." So yeah, this was the 10th of July. So you're right. He's gone out on loan. So yeah, that'll bring it to 30, 37. But still, we're talking about 12 players that need to leave before you've even considered, as I said, club trained and homegrown players as well. We just need to start shifting players out. No time for sentiment. We need to evolve, get better. They're always I completely agree. And obviously that's kind of moving on to the Son situation. Does Son have the right to make that decision? I think personally he does get to make that decision. However, he doesn't get to make that decision on base you stay and he just becomes the captain and plays every week because he's a legend. I think that then becomes you can go if you want, you can stay if you want, but you're going to play however many games that Frank wants you to play. You're not going to just play automatically because you're Son and you're the legend. I think there's positives on both sides. I can see Son having an impact this year if he's used in rotation, if he's not burnt out, if he's not playing continually. I think Frank will get him closer to the goal. I still think he's probably the best finisher at the club. So I think it would be he would bring something. However, I also think that if he left now, he leaves as a winner. He can't taint his legacy anymore. If he sticks around and it doesn't go too well, then are we in the sort of Lloris, Dyer, potentially even Davies category where he's getting absolutely slaughtered and ruining what he's previously done? Because go and look at this guy's stats and numbers. It's absolutely ridiculous. Paul Brown, big up everyone. Big up. Spurs fan John, it was Paratici, St. Gil, fee was around, like 20 million quid. And it doesn't sound a lot, but it is if you buy in 2, 3, 4 of these sorts of players. And then you basically there was rumours recently that Gil's not going to get 10 million. Like he's not going to get 10 million. Yeah, we did want Lamela off the wage bill, but again, it's a player we've bought in and we've effectively given away. So it kind of highlights the point is we've bought Lamela for X amount. Back when we signed him, it was a fair amount of money, but we signed the Lamela. We got him to a point where he was a liability. We wanted him off the wage bill. So what we do is we give him away, then spend 20 million as well on top of that to sign a player who we now want off the wage bill and can't sell because he's not worth anything. It's just a revolving door at Spurs. This just seems to be what we do on a continual basis. Big up Eugene, big up Jordan. Cheers for coming in, guys. Much appreciated. I stand by that we overhype players and become too good. They play one good game. My example, Sar's been to. I would say it works both ways with this. To be honest, I would literally say that we have a player that plays a couple of bad games and they're the worst in the world, and we have a player that plays a couple of good games and they're the best in the world, and we don't have that middle ground, which is probably where most of these sorts of players are. I'm guilty of it as well. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm not. When we signed Basuma and Ndombele, I was like, we're signing some of the best. Basuma for me was one of the best midfielders in the league from what I'd seen at Brighton, etc. And then there's a bit of a common ground. I think that's part of being a fan, though. You've got to get excited, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? It's not obviously taking last year and the Europa League win was exciting, but we haven't had a lot, have we, to get excited about. So we do get a little bit excited. Felix was like Walcott, if you've noticed. Yeah, he's certainly not the size of Walcott. That is a man enough a man. He's 6'4", something like that, 6'3". I don't think he's got a future at Spurs. I think that's going to be a loan deal, and they'll kind of ship him off at the end of the season, looking to pick up probably like 10 million, something like that. Richarlison talking, mate. Richarlison, I'm just interested to know what everyone's thoughts on our Richarlison, because no one seems to just make a definitive answer. It's always I'm not sure. There's no definitive answer, mate. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So Davis, Basuma, Bentancur, Devine, Solomon, Gill, Son, Richarlison, Scarlett. I'm not Henry. Big up, mate. I'm not so sure on a Bentancur one. I'm not so sure on that one, and just purely because Frank mentioned him in his very first interview. He didn't mention Son, but he did mention Bentancur. So I think Davies, I'm not so sure what the extension is. Maybe the extension is because they knew Takai and Dravuskovic were going to come in, and I don't care what anyone says, and it might not go down well in the chat, but Davies is like a coach on the pitch. He's a coach as a teammate, and the experience that he's got, these young players are going to feed off of that. I don't know whether anyone noticed, but Kudos, literally one of his first pictures of him in training, he's on the bike. Davies is next to him. I have no doubt Davies is one trying to integrate him, trying to get him used to the surroundings and being that he's that club man. And every club has got them. Every single club has got them. And I think maybe that's why he's been kept around. I don't believe the rumours that he's going to be sold. I think he'll stay in and around it. I don't think he'll see much game time, but I think he'll be gone. Basuma, I agree. Devine, I'm really, really sorry, Brian, but Devine, if he has one more year maybe on loan, but when you're reaching your sort of like 21s going into 22, 23s, I'm just not so sure whether or not you've got a future. I'm not saying he won't get to be a Premier League player, because I think he's got a lot of potential, but I agree. Solomon, Gill, completely agree. I think it's time for them to move on. Son, Richarlison, it's whether we can get him at the door, and it's who comes in for him, and all of that. I mean, LA Galaxy, is it he's supposed to be linked to, or LAFC? Their biggest transfer is £9.5 million. Their second biggest transfer was actually Xavier Hernandez, which made me laugh when I see that. So, are they going to come in with a number big enough? Richarlison, it doesn't seem to want to leave. Is he going to go? Is it someone going to come up with a decent amount of money? I'm not so sure. And Scarlett, as I say, other than Bentancur, I agree with all of them that we need to move on from them. But it's so much easier to say that and actually not actually be able to do it. So very similar names, very, very similar names. And Bentancur's got one year left, so has Basuma, but I think that there was supposed to be contract talks with Bentancur, so that might be extended. But Basuma, I think you get money for. Gill, it wouldn't surprise me if it was almost a free transfer with like a sell-on clause or something like that. I completely agree. Vuskovic is our third best centre-back. Well, I don't know whether you see the friendly, but there is an argument to say he's the best centre-back in the world. What an unbelievable debut against all, as I was saying earlier. I've seen it all over YouTube. He's unbelievable, one of the best in the world. So, yeah, he looks like a player. He looks like an absolute top player. Dragushin is shit. I'm not so sure. I think he was completely why he was signed. I have no idea, because we were supposed to be looking at players that specifically fit a system, and he certainly don't fit Ange. I think he could do a decent job for a Frank, especially when you consider that that Frank is he can play a defensive sort of style and things like that. So I think he'll be really, really good. We are going to stop soon, boys, because we have got Tottenham Till I Die going live very, very shortly. So I will be going over to them as soon as they go live. I'm going to see if we can set up a redirect. I'm not sure whether they are going to allow me to, but we shall see. I was hyped about Basuma. I think everybody was. Basuma looked absolutely top drawer, and then all of a sudden, just what happened to him? What actually happened to him? It was all a bit crazy, to be honest. One-legged Richarlison can easily go. He's a game changer, but it's just not fit enough. And that's the problem is we've got so many of them. You look at through this squad that we've currently got here, and Van der Ven, Romero, Udogi, Richarlison, Maddison, Bentancur to some extent. just don't play enough games. They don't play consistently enough. It's so difficult when you've not got that consistency, when you've not got that ability to carry on playing games, get up to speed. It feels like Richarlison's never not been in the team. He had that run where he scored a lot of goals, and I think it was like 10 in 10 or something crazy. But he never seems to go on a run where he's fit and able to play consistently. It's just a bit of a crazy thing. But again, that's happened at Spurs for so long. Lee, big up Lee. Even everyone, I do think the Spurs are very fickle. Great, Taylor's a great example. We wanted him to come in and only exactly. I think Taylor's going to be a decent signing for us, to be honest with you. I think he's going to be a very decent signing. Just give me 1 second. What else are we saying? Back three, yeah, that is definitely going to be an option. I think Dragusin is potentially perfect in that sort of thing. People need to realise that I know he's not going to be fit for a period of time, but actually he's also going to be playing against Real Madrid and that sort of stuff in the Champions League, and I think he could end up being a brilliant option in terms of the backs to the wall, sort of away from home, that sort of thing. Where else are we going to go? Let's just see if we can set up the redirects, guys. I'm not sure if we can, but let's give it a go. Let's see where where else are we? Let's have a look. When you see the names on that screen and then compare the top fours, I don't know whether anyone's seen it, but I actually done that recently. So what we done was we had a tier list where we brought up the top 4 teams, and yes, I completely and utterly agree. We were so far off of it. It's unbelievable. Right, it looks like Tottenham Till I Die. You are able to redirect. So I'm going to send everyone over there, guys. I will be joining the panel as well. Massive thank you to everyone that's joined in. As I said, it's just a quick one. As I said, I haven't done a stream before on my own, so I thought I'd quickly jump on, have a little bit of a chat, and then we'll push ourselves over to Spurs Die Hard, Tottenham Till I Die. So we're just going to go over there now, guys. As I said, very appreciative of you popping by, and it'd be great if you can if I'll see you again soon in the chat. I will speak to you all soon. Thank you very much. Take care, and last thing from me, as always, come on you Spurs.